Ladies and gentlemen, we hear this morning some essential ideas about European sovereignty. We hear a lot of new ideas how European Union could represent maybe a solution for fundamental reform of the system of the United Nations, giving to this new entity a full capacity to collaborate on the main international issues. And we have the pleasure today to have with us Ambassador Fabrizi, Saint Fabrizi representing the European Union. Mr. Fabrizi, the floor is yours.
A very good morning to all of you. Organizer, thank you for inviting me and to join this distinguished panel. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here, also to be part of this distinguished panel of colleagues who spoke before me. I try to be quite concise, also because time is always pressing. I try to respond to the focus of our conversations today, which is multilateralism, new multilateralism, revived multilateralism, and its role in international security. So 3 points, starting with the basic, why multilateralism is important, why is a crisis, and what the European Union can do about it. First one is why multilateralism is important. I think here in a few minutes it's difficult to go to all the pro why we need the multilateralism. But certainly just a couple of points. Certainly multilateralism is still there to provide the level playing field for states, independently from their dimension, by their ranking, their role in the international community. Multilateralism give them a say, and also that give them, or give all of us, the possibility to write norms that is applicable to all. The second element is that multilateralism is a guarantor of what we call public goods. We talk about climate change, we talk these days about health and pandemics. I think if we want to avoid pure national, narrow national approach or market-oriented solution, we need to bring those public goods under the umbrella of multilateralism, where every position will be taken into account. Let's talk about vaccine. There's already this vaccine nationalism. I think that the European Union, what has been done together with the UN and with the WHO, put the idea that we have to find a vaccine which is affordable for all, because viruses and pandemics have no borders, and certainly we will be much better off if we have a vaccine for all. Certainly, the second point is why the multilateralism is in crisis. It's not as today, in the past 2 decades, we recurrent have this debate of a crisis of multilateralism. Certainly, it's a way to express is we live in a multipolar world without multilateralism. So we have a growing number of players emerging, but less and less consensus on how this new dynamic should be taken into account. And certainly there is a strong temptation, big player, small player, medium player, to find a new set of rules. We saw big player withdrawing from international agreement or blocking international agreement. Other players making them pick and choose. I like this part of this agreement. I don't like the other part of this agreement. We see players do not respect the ruling of international court of justice. We saw players decide to leverage their power of going bilateral. So I think this crisis is there, and we not necessary to avoid. and we have to understand how we can do. Also, the complexity of the system is in front of us. The UN in 40 were 50 countries, and now it's more 193. How can you manage to make an agreement among such amount of players? So there are structural difficulties in the international community. They make multilateralism less effective, but not necessarily less important. Final point: what the European Union can do about it? We are multi. So we brought along the same rules in the second part of the last century. The same idea that inspired the UN was an idea that we united Europe. And certainly is a part of our DNA to be the defender and standard bearer of multilateralism. So certainly the message also that my French colleague has said, we need to state again that the universal value, the universality of some values, this political relativism, is something that we want to, we need to push back. Diversity is important, but also universality. One of the principles we use is unity in diversity. Yeah, you recognize diversity, but this recognition should bring us to a sort of fragmentation of what the policy agreement is about. The second point is we need to, as the EU, this has come to your question, how we can assemble throughout the European Union those who are like-minded, who believe in strengthening the multilateralism. There's a new areas where there's a gap to fill. Big data, hybrids, disinformation. Those areas where there's still a node setting to do. Sometimes an example is, for example, on personal data. There's some players who believe the data belong to the companies, other players who believe the data belong to the states. We think that the data belong to the citizen. This is why we launched, we applied in the European Union the GDPR, which is one of the, what we believe, the gold standard in the data protection. But if we don't work in a multilateral system, each of the players will try to have its own system to pass through. So we need to work together with, not only with within the European Union, with our like-minded players to fill the gap in the new areas that is in front of us. And secondly, last point, we need to work and give our own full support to the UN, sometimes a critical support to the United Nations. We need the United Nations stronger. We need to build capacity, increase the capacity of the UN to deliver. In those days, we have the United Nations General Assembly. We have this good ideas on how to reform WHO, how to reform WTO. And secondly, we need to do more. It's part of the European Union, and that we've been accused of punching quite below our weight. I think is a message we take seriously. Certainly, as a true believer of the United Nations, of multilateralism as the biggest donor around the globe. I think our role will remain to be there to reform the UN and at 75 happy anniversary. Thank you.
Grazie mille per questa bellissima presentazione. There's an interesting to see that the European Union, as a non-governmental body but not a state, could accomplish big contribution to this process of change, renewal of United Nations, and the work of United Nations. Yeah? And your input, of course, I'm sure is very much appreciated by the people in charge.